Today's episode is brought to you by HERdacity. HERdacity is a nonprofit inspiring confidence in women to achieve their professional goals. For resources, networking opportunities, and a strong community of women, visit HERdacity.org to learn more.
Welcome to HERdacious, a podcast for audacious women. Welcome to HERdacious, the podcast for audacious women looking to gain some ground on their career moves. My name is Lorelei, and I am glad you chose to join us today. We are going to be talking about finding communication confidence through the chaos. Joining me today, we have the founder and CEO of Templeton Associates. She's in the business of success and growth, which makes her the perfect person to be speaking to today, Miss Darlene Templeton.
Oh my gosh, Lorelei, thank you so much for having me here today. This is awesome and audacious. So I'm glad to be on HERdacious today. And I am all about helping others, especially women, succeed in the business and especially around confidence during this chaotic and crazy time. So thank you so much for having me. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen out there, for joining us.
Yes, and we're excited to have you and to talk about communication confidence. With COVID running amok, communication styles have really changed, which means our business patterns and our relationships are changing. A lot of us have transitioned to a virtual communication style, which means we've had to adapt quickly. I feel like a lot of us didn't necessarily have the tools to go virtual quickly, so we've just kind of been learning as we go. Like, where do we go from here?
Lorelei, you're exactly right. We have been learning as we go. I worked virtually in the corporate world for 12 years before I retired. And what I learned from that is be your authentic self. Show up, put a smile on your face, and create those relationships just like you would try to create them in the face-to-face world. But smile, ask questions, speak up, and find your voice. That's really important. And show up confidently. One of the things I say is if you can show up confidently, then you'll start to break the logjam, if you will, of communicating virtually.
With the virtual communication transition, I feel like a lot of us might be overwhelmed by this difference or potentially underwhelmed by our inability to communicate in the way that we're used to.
That's so true. The overwhelm and chaos that we're all experiencing right now. I mean, we've never had to sometimes you have to take these calls from your kitchen. You've been homeschooling children all day. You've been running around. I've never cooked this much in my life. In the 23 years I've been married to my husband, I don't think I've ever cooked this much. So times are really changing. I always say there's a new sheriff in town right now, and it's bringing a lot of complications for us. Just think about, we don't have clear-cut boundaries anymore.
Right.
We go from one moment to the other. You know, your child needs to be on their Zoom meeting. I'll tell you a little quick story. One of the women in my group, she has her children, 3 of them, homeschooling in her office. And she said, her 6-year-old said, "Mom, you need to be quiet. My Zoom is starting and it's important."
That's great.
Yeah. And who did we ever know that our children knew what a Zoom call was?
Well, they didn't before now.
Right. It's very, very different. But the one thing, if you don't hear anything from me today, be yourself, show up, ask questions, smile, keep that camera on. Please don't go on no video. Please. It's okay to go on no audio, but you want to be seen. You want to be able to speak up and use your voice. That way you're heard more and you really make those connections easier.
Well, let's take a quick pause on that thought. I would like for you to develop that a little further. Why is having our video on so important to showing up in the conversation?
So here's the reason it is. In the old days, when we were sitting in a conference room or we were talking in the lunchroom or we were eating lunch or having a coffee break, I saw you, Lorelei. I got to see your face. I got to see your reactions. I got to see how you responded to my questions and comments or what's going on in the meeting. If I can't see you, then that really puts a block on what you're feeling, what you're saying, and how the meeting's going. It's okay to have it on mute because my cat comes in. She's a Zoom queen. She wants to come in and be on the, she wants to come in. She's amazing with the Zoom. I have to put it on mute because she's sitting there meowing. Okay. Yeah. Our children, your husband, other things with this new distraction and the blurred lines, it's very important to figure out. But if your face is there, you can mute some of those distractions by having yourself on mute. but it's so important to show up. So important.
I love that. It feels like you're representing our former interconnectedness that we used to have by being social and transitioning that to a virtual space. Talk to us a little bit more about how we maintain our interconnectedness in this virtual / chaotic realm that we're existing in today.
You just said it so perfectly. We're social. I'm a screaming extrovert. Okay. And I haven't been in person with anybody but my husband, my cat, and my neighbors and kids at social distancing. Okay. So we want to make those connections. You want to make eye contact. You want to smile. You want to ask questions, and you want to show people that you're still there, that you're still participating, and that you're engaged. So it's about engaging others with that social contact that we used to have. Do Zoom connects. I do a Zoom coffee. You and I have had a Zoom coffee.
Yes.
But we still connected. Okay. And that's important. And it's even more important now that I don't pass you in the hallway, or I don't see you at lunch, or I don't sit next to you in the same cubicle anymore. It's so critical.
It
so
makes
critical.
me think of a former guest that we just had. Her episode dropped last week, Kim Barnes. She was talking about how communication is a vast majority body language and tone of voice. And it's like less than 10% of the words that we say, right? If I recall correctly, body language makes up the majority of our communication style.
It does.
So just physically being present or virtually being present, representing how you're reacting to the conversation, does seem to be an often overlooked tool in our communication toolbox right now.
It is totally overlooked. But think about it. If you're in a person-to-person meeting and you look over and someone's got a big frown on their face, you know that A, they're not liking being in this meeting. B, there may be something going on personally, but they are not engaged at all. Okay. They are not engaged. Our body language, our smile. You smile at people you don't know and you can change their day. I love Kim, and what they said is so true. The one thing that she reinforced to me, and I knew it, is that eye contact. Make eye contact with with the people on the Zoom meetings or the WebEx or whatever you're on. Make eye contact. That way you see them and they see you. And we start to feel valued again.
Ah, yeah. Well, talk to us about the female-specific challenges in the virtual communication realm.
The biggest challenge for us women right now is we're balancing so much. Okay. It's total overwhelm and chaos. Okay. And a lot of the women that have full-time corporate jobs still have full-time corporate jobs, but they're doing it from home with all these other things surrounding them. Dinner, animals, getting kids to school, are often on Zoom. The overwhelm and chaos is so much right now. And as women, we had a lot of that in our lives before. And the other thing that we tend not to do as women is speak up sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay. Even in meetings, I used to see in the corporate world, I would see women sit at the back of the conference room. Okay. Not sit around the conference table. Okay. And I would say, get a seat at that table. Everybody sit at the table. But it's about taking that back seat sometimes. And also when we're as stressed as we are right now with homeschooling and what are we going to cook for dinner and all this other stuff when your partner's home or anything, it's so distracting that sometimes when we get on these meetings, we are totally distracted. Okay. So we've got to figure out a little bit about this boundary setting. Let's say you're supposed to be at work, your job, it's 8:30 to 5:30 job.
Sure.
Okay. If you have an hour commute, what I'm finding a lot of women are doing now that they don't have that commute, they'll take a meeting at 7:30. Don't build in more meetings inside of your commute. Use that commute time that you normally would have had as more time for you, as more time to get the family ready, as more time to get prepared a little bit. Same thing on the back end. I had a woman say, instead of starting at 8:30 and ending at 5:30, I'm starting at 7:30 and ending at 9:30 at night because I'm taking these calls.
We're stretching out that day.
Exactly. That's what we're doing because we are at home and we're feeling a little bit guilty because we've had to take kids to school or whatever. We've had to do other stuff. We're feeling like we can expand that day. Do not do that. That is something that we do not want to do. Please, please, please keep your commute time for you. Mm-hmm. Make sure that you're keeping that time in the morning, that time in the evening. And by the way, it's okay to say no. I can't take that call at 9 o'clock tonight or 8 o'clock with Asia or wherever that call happens to be. Or if you're owning your own business, if you're an entrepreneur like me, sometimes I feel like, well, it's okay. I can just work into the night. I've started setting boundaries. I'm going to stop at 6 o'clock. Okay. And I'm going to start at this time. And that way we don't expand the day. Okay. Like we feel like we have to and need to. So ladies, I'm going to ask you all, set your boundaries, figure out what they are. Do not feel guilty about having to run stuff or do stuff during the day, but set that job, whether you own your own business or you're in the corporate world, to a day that you can have, because 12 and 13, 14-hour days with everything else that's going on in our lives today is not what we want to do. It's not healthy, and it doesn't help us do anything, grow business-wise or professionally or personally. It does not help us. So this is one thing I want you to really think about: self-care and taking care of you with boundaries. Very important.
Brilliant. Brilliant. So I'm going to enforce one of my show's boundaries and take a quick sponsor break.
Hi, Barbie here from Moonray, husband and wife indie pop duo. If you enjoy the intro music, we invite you to listen to our debut EP, Honeymoon, streaming now on all platforms. Visit www.moonray-music.com for more.
And we're back with Darlene Templeton talking about communication confidence in the time of COVID. Sounds like a book. So
maybe it should be a book.
Darlene, we all know that communication in the virtual realm is way different than in-person communication. And we've talked about a lot of the differences. How do we go into this virtual communication style feeling more confident and leaning into our communication power?
Such a great question. Remember, I've talked about blurring the lines between personal and professional, just talked about setting those boundaries and taking a breath and finding some time for you.
Right.
But really, it's about how to lead with confidence, how to lead with your strengths. What are you the best at? I am passionate. Of course, y'all can tell that. I hope. But I am passionate about leading. I know that I am passionate about engaging teams. I am not great on the details like the financial stuff. Find out what your strengths are. Figure out, mine are communication, passion, and leadership. So lead with your strengths. Okay. That's so important, but you've got to know them first. So take a moment to say, what am I the best at? What do people come to me a lot to ask me to do? Okay. Is it organization? Is it communication? Is it financial? Take a look at that. That gives you more confidence, because confidence is an essential skill that moves with you. It's portable. Remember that. It's a skill that's portable.
Nice.
And we grow our confidence. We grow our confidence by feeling like we know what we're doing.
Excellent.
The other thing is be authentic. Okay. Be authentic and be who you are.
I love that you said be authentic. However, I get some feedback from folks saying, what does authentic even mean anymore? It's like one of those words that became like synergy, where everybody just said it so much. It just doesn't make any sense.
I love it.
So how can we be authentic and feel good, feel genuine about that?
It's being clear on who you are. Okay. It's being clear on your message and what you're I always call it your personal brand a little bit. I'm always the person that connects. I'm the connector. I'm the passionate connector that energizes and motivates people. Sometimes in the corporate world, I was too much. I was too loud. I was too this. I was too that. But I finally decided that I needed to be the real me. And once you're the real you, you're comfortable in what you do best.
Yes.
That's being authentic.
Love it.
You're comfortable in what you do best. Some of the other qualities about being authentic, and what a great question, because you're right. It's the same thing. If I hear empower one more time, or honestly, if I hear pivot, we're talking about refocus instead of pivot. I'm done with pivoting, but it's like integrity, openness, passionate, respect, sincerity, be warm. Okay. How many times have you heard people get up and they go, good morning, I'm Darlene Templeton. That's not a warm introduction. Okay.
It's a robot.
Be yourself. Yeah, exactly. I call them the Stepford people. Oh. They're the Stepford people. They're a robot and they're just doing it. Find where you're comfortable. And by the way, this goes for extroverts and introverts, because I know you introverts out there are going, there goes that crazy extrovert again. All you introverts run deep. And I love the thoughtfulness, the sincerity, the warmth. Find those qualities in you. And that's what I mean by being authentic. And honestly, ladies, it works every time, every single time. We already talked about setting boundaries. Ladies, if you don't hear one other word I say today, boundaries is important. There's a very old book out there called Boundaries. Get it. Probably buy it for $1 on Amazon. Boundaries. Get a glass of wine or your Topo Chico or whatever you want to take a little break and read it. It talks about how we owe ourselves and we deserve to have some boundaries in our life, especially in now this time of COVID when we don't know, it's just too crazy and too challenging right now. The last thing I want to talk about on how to really lead with confidence, set some goals. Okay. And I'm not talking about setting a goal that I'm going to run a marathon tomorrow and I've never run around the block. I might say, I really want to start training for a 5K or a 10K so that my long-term goal is a marathon. But you've got to set goals. And I do things, and I tell our team and all the women I work with, set a 30-day goal and set 3. Okay. One should be personal and the other 2 should be business, and then roll it. When you cross one off, add another one. And I promise you, if you look forward at those goals, it's amazing what you can get done. That could be as simple as I need to finish organizing my office. That's a big goal for me. That will get done in the next 30 days because it's on a piece of paper.
Nice. We are more likely to achieve our goals when we write them out for ourselves.
Yes, exactly.
So to recap, to lead with confidence, we want to lean into our strengths. We want to practice authentic communication that is true to ourselves. We want to set and hold the line on our boundaries, and we want to set goals. Correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So how do we leverage these 4 points for our confidence?
Call this the S.O.S formula. Okay. It's about ourselves. We don't trust ourselves. We don't follow our gut. We ask ourselves, I can't tell you about so many decisions that I've said, oh my gosh, is that the right decision? I need to call Lorelei and get her to help validate me. Start trusting yourself and your instincts and your gut. If I don't follow my instinct and my gut, I'm always in trouble. So start to learn to trust yourself because you know yourself better than anybody else. I love this quote about Judy Garland said it. Stop trying to be somebody else because you're the best version of you.
Yes.
Okay. You are. I love that. You are the best version of you. So that's again going back to being authentic, but real authenticity. Okay. That's being yourself and trusting yourself. The second one is trust others. I'll be honest with you. As women, sometimes I want to hold on to it all because I can do it faster and better than if I have to ask somebody or tell somebody.
Truth.
Yes. It might not be perfect either. Okay. It might not be perfect, which is another danger zone that we live in. Okay. Perfect is the enemy of great. Write that down. Perfect is the enemy of great. So you want to have a group of people around you that can help you support yourself. A network of, I call it your board of directors, but have women around you that are your cheerleaders or they call you out are the ones that make you toe the line. That's trusting others. Trust others at work and in your business so that you can start not carrying the full load yourself. That's the way to start leveraging confidence. And the last one is skills. Remember, we talked about your leadership skills. You've got a bag of leadership skills. Leverage those skills and utilize them so that you're able to accomplish what you want. So that's SOS. I'm going to share one thing. Learn to say no. Say no to the task, but yes to the person. So say no in a very positive, upbeat way that says, so Lorelei, can you play a quick game with me?
Yes.
Ask me to be on your board, please.
Darlene, I have a board of trusteds and I would like to invite you to be one of them.
Lorelei, I can't. I'm just too busy. I'm sorry. I'm packed to the gill and I can't do it, but thanks so much. Okay, I'll call you later. Bye. How do you feel?
So sad.
I know.
So sad.
Okay, so ask me again.
Darlene, I have a board of trusteds, and I would like to invite you to be one of them.
Oh my gosh, Lorelei, I'm so honored that you asked me to do that. I would love to do that, but I'm on 3 different boards today. And when I give 150%. So thank you for the opportunity. Can we touch base in about 3 months to see if some things have shifted so I can be on your board of trusted? Thank you so much. Now, how do you feel?
Loved, appreciated.
Yeah.
Like that you will follow up with me and that we'll be able to move forward.
Yes. That's a trick, not a trick, but it's honest. But that's the way and the same thing with business. Ask your boss to help you prioritize what you've got going instead of saying, I've got too much to do. Ask them to make the priority with you. So there's some ways to say no, but make it a sincere and warm no. Does that help?
Yes, it does. I want to transition to relationships because you kind of just dovetailed me into this. If we're talking about building effective relationships, I think most of us are used to doing that in person. How do we do this virtually?
Well, that was just one thing that saying no, but yes to the person is a great way to do that. I want you to think about showing up. And we've talked about that a little bit, about being on the camera, about engaging in eye contact. I call that showing up. And honestly, show up exactly like you showed up in person. It's just on a screen. Make your follow-up calls. Let me give you another tip. Have conversations privately sometimes in those Zoom chats. Cause I could just say hi to Lorelei if I wanted to. That's also another way to connect with somebody in the chat. Find them, send them a private message that said, let's have a Zoom coffee. Or would you like to meet for 5 minutes after this? Again, follow up those relationships just like you would before. Do not multitask. Please do not be looking down at your phone and looking over here and doing this, because that's shown. It's even more prevalent on the Zooms than it is when you're sitting in a room. At least you can kind of hide it, or you can get up and go to the ladies' room if you have to do something. If you have to take a call, I usually put in the chat, sorry, I have an emergency. I've got an emergency. I'll be back in a few minutes. Let people know that you're not just disappearing. But again, it's about showing up.
That's a good Zoom etiquette rule.
Yes, there is. I wish I had gotten that. There were like 7 rules of etiquette. One was keep your calendar on, your camera on. One was show up, and one was not multitasking. The other one was watch for the distractions. Okay. Like my cat, I had to lock her out now because she would be a distraction to me today. Okay. So if there's distractions, if you can cut down on the noise and the distraction. One woman goes to her garage where there are no kids, no cats, and no partner. Okay. She has a little corner in the garage, and that's where she does her Zoom meetings, which I thought was brilliant. Speak up is really say just like you would in a meeting. Lorelei, that's a great question. I'd like to have a conversation with you after this meeting to talk more about that. Okay. Be engaged and still take notes. Okay. Ask questions when they ask in the chat, or they do a poll in the chat, or they ask a question and say, put your answers in there. Put your answers in there. You must be heard. And a lot of times on Zoom, it's a little intimidating to see yourself and all these people out there on Zoom. We're all Zoom fatigued, but still speak up and let your opinions, ask a lot of questions, be curious, not judgmental, but be curious and stay curious. That's the best way, in my mind, to be able to speak up and stay engaged on the virtual calls. Don't be afraid to ask questions either.
So show up, speak up. Anything else?
Connect up. Okay. That's my last one. Connect up. Okay. If there's somebody, if Lorelei, you and I have not chatted for a while and I'm on a Zoom with HERdacity with you, I want to send you a private message and say, Lorelei, let's have a Zoom coffee. I would love to chat with you. Okay. Connect up. Take a note. If you don't connect right in that meeting, a great idea too is to take a picture of the Zoom screen or do a screenshot so you can see people's names so you don't lose who might be on those Zooms in case there's somebody you want to connect with. It is so important. And I want to kind of put parentheses around this. It is so important to follow up with people that you connect with on these meetings. Follow up on LinkedIn. Link them in on LinkedIn. Link them in on Facebook. Connect up and keep those connections going. That is critical because there might be someone on there that you really want to connect with, and then the Zoom's over and you can't find them again. So connect them. Okay. Those are my important ways.
Excellent. So I want to tie all this together in a nice little bow. We went through leading with confidence and then leveraging our confidence, through knowing our strengths, setting our boundaries, communicating effectively, setting our goals, and then showing up, speaking up, connecting up. It feels like you've created this huge umbrella of an action plan. How do we put all of these pieces together and move forward effectively in a way that allows us to manage the overwhelm and then still be strong, authentic communicators and leaders and communicate with confidence?
Such a great question. And it's so true the way we do this. What I would tell you is set your goals. I would set 3 goals for the next 30 days. Okay. 3. Okay. I would then add actions to complete those goals. Make yourself an action plan. Don't overwhelm yourself with so much. 3 goals, 1 personal, 2 business. Set actions to go. What's your first action? And it may be as simple as I'm going to call Lorelei because I want to chat with her about something about HERdacity. Challenge yourself, but make them doable. You can build it out if you want, but that's the simplest way to start it. You're not overwhelmed then, and you don't have 99 things to think of. Okay. The one thing I'm going to ask you today to do though, think about what is the most important thing you heard today that you want to do something about. I call it your wow. Within 1 week, what is one action that you're going to take today to help lead with confidence, communicate with confidence, and stop the overwhelming chaos? That is something to write down before this is over. That's the way to start.
Wow. Love it. Thank you, Darlene. And lastly, do you have any resources that our listeners can check out to take their communication skills to the next level?
There's so much out there. HERdacity's website, my website, darlenetempleton.com. It's easy. If you haven't read Brene Brown, I would highly recommend to get her books because that's such a great way to do this. There's a lot of things out there on virtually communicating. Just put under what I do is I go to Forbes and just put in virtual communication and you'll get a myriad of articles. Another place to go look is the Texas Women's Conference. If you're not signed up for that, they are putting out resource after resource after resource with women especially. And so there's lots out there. Be careful not to get yourself overwhelmed. Okay. There's one other book. If you haven't read this, I'd ask you to think about it. It's Simon Sinek, Start With Why. Okay. And it really starts to help you kind of prioritize a little bit about what your why is. And then you can prioritize so the overwhelm kind of goes away.
Wonderful. Again, wow. Thank you, Darlene. So to end our episode, we're going to transition to our Femme fact as we do. Darlene, what do an FBI agent and a Catholic nun have in common?
Oh my gosh. I don't know.
All right, so it's not a joke. It's actually one and the same person. Even though these 2 occupations share a relatively secretive lifestyle, there was one woman in history who conquered both of them, Miss Joanne Pierce Misko. She was one of the first of 2 women to ever enroll in the FBI Training Academy at Quantico back in 1972. While this was an unexpected feat at the time, we can look back on the upbringing of Miss Pierce, our Catholic nun in question, and see how the stars aligned for this role. Joanne Pierce was raised around a family of police officers, so law enforcement was just as much a part of her life as her Christian faith. After college, Joanne became a member of the Convent of the Sisters of Mercy in Buffalo, New York, where she devoted her life to God and the teaching of middle and high school students. Bless her heart. During a season where the FBI was visiting the school to recruit students to the Bureau, Joanne's interest was piqued, as she was also considering a change of career at the time, so she ended up applying to the agency. She successfully started her career at the FBI as a researcher at the Training Academy, and 2 years later, she was accepted to the special agent position by then acting FBI Director Mr. Patrick Gray. Amazingly enough, Director Gray had just opened the special agent position to women and had approached Joanne specifically about the role, making her one of the first females to occupy the role in all of FBI history. Her 14-week training experience was intense and physically and psychologically demanding. However, Joanne, along with the only other woman in the program, her Marine counterpart, Miss Susan Rowley Malone, both made it through the program with grace. After training, Joanne was sent to St. Louis for her first assignment, where she joined the White Collar Crime Squad. In '73, Joanne was sent to Wounded Knee, South Dakota, where she worked 12-hour shifts during the Wounded Knee occupation by members of the American Indian Movement. Later, she was appointed to the Pittsburgh Division, where she met her future spouse, Michael Misko. She became the first female supervisor at FBI headquarters, where she was in charge of new agent applications, which she considered to be one of the most rewarding milestones of her career. Joanne worked for the FBI for 22 years and retired in '94. Today, she remains close to many of her fellow FBI agents and colleagues. She considers her career to have been absolutely fulfilling. And as Beth said in her own words, the FBI is a family, and you get very, very close. You feel part of an organization and part of a group. It was a privilege, and it was a wonderful career. For all of you ladies debating a career change right now, or wanting to try something brand new, start channeling some of that nun-turned-FBI special agent energy, and you might just make some history, or give our current cultural expectations a healthy dose of whiplash in the process. Darlene, I want to thank you for joining us today. I feel like we have gained lots of different tools to start communicating more confidently, and that is going to positively impact the trajectory of all of our careers moving forward. Thank you.
Lorelei, thank you for inviting me. To all the ladies, and if we have a few men joining us out there, this is awesome. And remember, you are amazing. I'm going to leave you with a quote from my favorite, Maya Angelou. If you always try to be normal, you will never know how amazing you are. And with that, be amazing.
And thank you again to our listeners for tuning in. If you liked our show, please subscribe, and please tell a friend or colleague who might need a little bit of audacious lady support on her career journey. Until next time, as Darlene said, you're amazing.